It is great to see everybody's face, everybody's avatar, maybe your initials. But thanks for coming. As Josiah said, this is the basics of ActionFlow, so it will be quite simple, quite laid back. If you've got questions, let's go ahead and put them in the chat, and you can ask afterwards. But really what we're going to look at today is quoting. We're going to spend a couple minutes on the scheduler, and then we're going to look at the fabrication tab as well. So I'm going to share my screen here. If for some reason my screen is not sharing, please someone let me know. But this is what you see. And again, I'm assuming you're kind of newer to ActionFlow if you're at this particular webinar. And so there's a lot going on. So how do we simplify this? How do we kind of make sense of it? Well, the first thing I want to point our attention to is the settings button over here. And as I do that, I am going to say, this is ABC countertop. So this is our ActionFlow's fictional countertop world. So if there are a couple buttons on here that you haven't seen before, it might just be that they're on this particular account and not everybody's. But if you're new to ActionFlow, I'd highly recommend that you jump onto this settings page. This is just, it's going to allow you to set preferences, to change colors, to change how your screen looks, to set defaults in a way that's actually really helpful. And it also will allow you to change password if you need to do that. So that was kind of my first thing. But let's go ahead and jump into quoting, and let's go ahead and create a customer, a job, things like that. I do want to say too, if you are kind of following along for the first time, definitely take notes and definitely maybe even have a separate screen up and try and kind of do what I'm doing as we're moving here, because it can be kind of heavy the first time. So you can see here, this is the quoting screen that I have out in front of me. And ActionFlow kind of works with 3 kind of main tiers, and then there's also like a 4th tier. And so those are the customer, the job, the area, and then above the customer, there's the account. And so what does that actually mean? Well, we'll talk about that in just a second. But I want to show you here this button, Create Quote. So if a customer walks through the door and you are ready to create a quote for them, then you're going to hit that button. And what that button's going to do is it's going to pop up this pop-up on your screen to fill out their contact information and their details as well. And so if a customer walks through the door, let's just say it's early 2010s pop icon Kesha, you might put in Kesha's name right there in the quote wizard. Then if I hit tab, I can kind of go to the different parts of the quote wizard. So the job name here is primary home. That's fine with me. Now I'm going to put in my address. This is my old address, so nobody can find me, but it is a great apartment if anyone's looking. I can also put in a phone number. I can put in an email address, and those are my current phone number and my email address if you ever have any questions. I can put in notes here if, I can say really important job or something a bit more substantial than that. And then I can also put a referral. So if there's a referral or anything else there. This was that 4th tier I was talking about, the accounts. And so these are going to be your builders. These are going to be your dealers. You might call them your joiners. There's a whole bunch of different names, contractors. We call them accounts here. You can change that name. We have a ton set up in this ABC countertops. So let's just go ahead and say Green Hill Construction was the person that is working with Kesha to make sure that ActionFlow, so that their countertops are installed. So when I click OK here, what ActionFlow is doing on this screen is it's creating that customer, it's creating the job, and it's also creating the area. And so on my second screen over here, an area module just popped up. Now I'm actually going to close that right now, and I just want to show us a few things. So you can see that here, so this is the customer, so that's Kesha, and we also have a job number. This is how you can refer to your job kind of internally. We also have all the contact information that I just put in is all going to be there. If we put specific people on the quote wizard, it would be there. And if we'd done assigned roles, it would be there as well. In our details, you can see that my notes, really important job, has followed through. If I had a referral, it would follow through there as well. Now, some kind of a tip that I like that a different account manager has kind of installed in me, is to make sure that this, once you're done with that customer information, go ahead and just click job view. This is just going to condense your page. It's going to require you to scroll less, and it's just going to be easier to kind of work towards. And so I'm not going to go through everything on this page because, again, this is going to be a basic tutorial. But certainly if you've got questions about what you can see, let's go ahead and put them in the chat or ask them at the end. So here's that job 4171, and then we also have areas. So our areas are going to be the different components of the job, the different rooms. So the kitchen, the bathroom, so on and so forth. To actually open up that area module, I'm going to click on this pencil with I think that's a piece of paper behind it. So I'm going to click on that, and it's going to pull up my area module over here. And so what are we looking at here? Well, the first place I want to direct your attention is this top left, this salmon. Maybe this is salmon, maybe it's pink, shaded box. And so let's just go ahead and look at the different components here. So we have the price list. So you can have multiple price lists on ActionFlow. This is just the default retail price list. You have the name of the area. So I don't know if you noticed, but that's right there. If I change this, if I actually say that we're doing Kesha's bathroom and then hit tab, then that updates that name as well. So that's a really helpful way of differentiating what rooms you're doing. Then I can click the material. So let's say I want to do Caesar stone 3 centimeters today. And then a color, we'll do shining armor. We can see the unit that we're choosing from. So in this case, square feet. If we wanted to override the name, we could do it there. And then finally, we do need an edge default. So the things you need to make sure are filled out are going to be those edge default, the color, the material, and the price list. ActionFlow will tell you, hey, you need to fill these things out if you haven't filled them out. All right, so we're done over there in the salmon section, and I want to cast your eyes to over here, the drawing section. So we have 4 pre-drawn shapes that you can use, and we also have a drawing button here. I think the pre-drawn shapes are the easiest, so I'm just going to go ahead and use those for now. So if I want to draw an L-top, I can click that, and it automatically pulls up an L-top on my screen. I would highly recommend using a mouse when you're on ActionFlow, and also even more so when you're doing the quoting. This little zoom in and out thing that I don't know what you call that on a mouse is really, really helpful as I just kind of orient my tops on the page. So I've got an L top, and whenever I draw a kitchen, I like to do the same one. So I'm going to left click and I'm going to hold down a top and I'm going to pull it over here. And then we can also see the dimensions. So 60 by 25.5 is this L top. I want to make sure that this extends. So I'm going to click on the numbers and then I'm going to put 80 right there. And then I'm going to hit tab. Hitting tab is kind of like a cheat code in ActionFlow, and it always it helps in a lot of ways to keep things moving. So this is my top, and I'm going to kind of talk more about those in just a second. I do want to show you this drawing function. So if I kind of move over here and then I lose it and I forget, you can refresh here. So I'm just going to zoom out. And I'm going to click this draw button here. And so when I was first at ActionFlow, I was so confused how this worked. I would left click and I would right click and I would just not be able to draw anything until one day, in a moment of divine inspiration, the song by Beyonce, To the Left, popped into my head. And I realized how I could learn this drawing feature. So when you left click that drawing feature, you're going to first left click on the big white space, and then whenever you need to move the top in a different direction, you're going to left click again. So again, to the left, everything I own, box to left. That's the Beyonce song. It's also how you can remember how to use this drawing feature. So then I'm going to left click again, and then when I'm done, I'm not going to left click. Now I'm going to right click, and so there I have another top that I can use. Now, I don't actually need this for today's demonstration, so I am going to use this X over here. So these are all the tops that we have, and you can see that they highlight when you click them. I am going to X be very careful when you delete something in ActionFlow, because as you can see by the message here, are you sure you want to delete? This cannot be undone. So just be extra careful to make sure that you're not deleting anything that you might need in the future. Okay, so what are we going to do with these tops now? So we're going to go ahead and put some edges on, which I accidentally just did. Spoilers. If you want to add an edge to a top, you're first going to click the top, so you have it highlighted. And then you're going to go to the side of the top to where the little pointing hand goes to like this section. So I'm going to left click once, and these X's denote that is a finished edge. And you can see there's a little key down here. You can also do a second edge if you hold down Shift. But if I just go ahead and I do those finished edges, and I'm actually just going to make this a regular finished edge. And I'm going to do it over here as well. And then if I click it twice, then that denotes a backsplash. So there we have a backsplash. Something else that you're really going to want to get used to on ActionFlow is calc and saving. Just kind of like in Microsoft Word, if you're typing away an essay or something like that, you're going to Control S all the time. Definitely get used to calc and saving. It's just going to be, that's going to be your best friend. So now we have a top, we have finished edges, we have backsplash, and we're ready to go. There's just a couple more things I want to show you on this page before we kind of leave the quoting area, and that is going to be an undermount. So if you want to add any drawing items onto your quote in ActionFlow, you're going to click a top and you're going to right click. Now there's a whole bunch of options that you can see here. We've got seams, splits, angles, all of that fun stuff. We're not going to go into all of this today because there's a lot of information, but I do want to add an undermount. So when I add an undermount, what's going to happen is this yellow box is going to appear on my screen. And this yellow box is just telling me basically that I can add an undermount. And so first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fill out the information in this yellow box. So I'm going to pick a sink, in this case, the LK123. And there are already default dimensions that we've put on in the back for that LK123. So I don't need to do anything there. And then I can also add a faucet layout. So we'll do a 2-hole center. Now, when I go back over to my top, you can see that there's the faucet layout, the 2 holes there. And we can also see the dimensions for that undermount. Now, you can see that the faucet holes are going back and forth. So you kind of just want to play with where you want that to be. So I will say that I want it to be like right there. And this is a top that is 50. So if I want to change the center line there, I'm going to click that and I'm going to change that to 25. So now it's right in the middle. It's going to allow me to keep adding undermounts if I choose to until I close out this yellow box. So if you do accidentally add another undermount, then what you can do is you can just use this erase button right here. If you just kind of go over the text, and that will get rid of the undermount. All right, the last couple things I want to show you are wrapping up the quote. So you can see on the right here, we have the area summary. So this is going to have all your revenues, it's going to have all your costs, and it's going to have all your line items. So you can see here that, you know, this Caesar stone shining armor is about $1,900. We have the charge for our linear feet on the edge. We have labor charges. We have that faucet layout charge. We have all sorts of charges that you can see in a bit more detail if you click line items here. And you can see things like quantity and the unit revenue and all that stuff. You can also, if you need to add, you can create an estimate on this page. And so if you click reports in the top left, and then if you go down to estimate quoting, here are the estimates that you can choose from. This is a specific account, so your account might not have all of those estimates, but those can be set up by your account manager or by you if you want to learn how. Okay, that's how I'm going to leave the area module for now. There's a lot more information. We can change a lot more things, but for now, let's just go ahead, calc and save it. And that is how Kesha's countertops are going to go. There's two other tabs that I want to go over briefly. Those are going to be the schedule tab and the fabrication tab. So I would say these are kind of like the three most commonly used tabs. So here's the scheduler you've got right here. And if I look in the top left, I can see that this schedule is the template and install schedule. If I go ahead and click it, I can see all of the schedules that have been loaded on this account from fabrication to just install. So if I click on this install schedule, it's going to shift me to just Adam and Jose, who are in this fake account, my installers. Now, there is nothing on this week. I guess ABC Countertops is taking a week off. But if we go to next week, we can see just a whole bunch of jobs. And really briefly, you can see a bunch of information about these jobs if you just kind of hover over it. So this is a newer feature that people really like. It's going to include a whole bunch of actions you can see there in the bottom left. So when that job was templated, when it was sawed, when it was finished, things like that. You can also see other information like this job is in St. Louis, Missouri. That's in the top right there. And then you can also see like the material and the colors, and this can be configured in different ways as well. We can add notes on here and job details as well. Now, if you're actually adding something to the schedule, what you're going to do is you're going to find an open spot, and it looks like Jose might have time for another install in this afternoon. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to double click, and it's going to open up this box here with the action install. Now, the reason that action is install is because we have programmed Jose in the back to be an installer, and the default action is to install. I can add a comment, which might be that there is a dog on the premises, but he is friendly. If Kesha has confirmed it with me, I can confirm it. And then I also have a default amount of hours. So on this particular account, we've said that it takes about 3 hours for an install to take place. So when I click OK, there it goes. It's right, kind of fit in there. If I need to move this around, I can move this if I just click it and drag it, and I can say, actually, this is going to go to Adam on Saturday. And it's going to give me a little pop-up there, and then I'm going to say it's actually a much bigger job, and I'm going to drag it and I'm going to make it a bigger job, or I can make it a smaller job as well, depending on what you need. There's a lot of information here that you can add to your account: square footage, hours, $, constraint hours, all that stuff. So definitely feel free to play around with that. All right. One last tab here before we jump into questions is going to be the fabrication tab. So the fabrication tab is going to be the catch-all, and it has a lot of the same information from that area module and from that customer page, but it's just kind of laid out in a different way and in a way that I really like. So let's go ahead and just look from left to right here. So we can see the customer Kesha, we can see the job number 4171. If we wanted to search for a new customer or a new job, we could do that there. If we click on customer layout, we can see exactly the same drawing that I just put in. If there was a fabrication layout, then we could also see that fabrication layout as well. In the middle here, we can see inventory items. So for this particular job, we've said the only inventory item that we need is the LK123. And then over here is the line item summary. So this is going to be all the line items that you need for the job, as well as their quantity and their unit. So for one other thing about this fabrication page is that if there are multiple areas, then they'll just kind of keep stacking. And so if you've got a big job with 3 or 4 areas, then you'll just be able to see all of your information on this page, and it's gonna be really helpful. So all right, that's me talked, I think, about 16, 17 minutes, which is certainly enough time to make your head explode. So if there are any questions, now would be the time to ask. I don't know how this usually goes, Josiah. I don't know if...
Yeah, I would say, go ahead and put it in the chat, but it really is looks like we're already getting one here. And I would say it's kind of a blank canvas. If you're new, can you show how to untag an item? Right?
Sure.
From a job specifically, yeah.
So if I tagged, I guess I can tag, I mean, there's a whole bunch of ways to tag items. and maybe someone else has a different way. But if I tag this particular Caesar stone shining armor, which is like 3 or 4 steps beyond what I just showed. So now that is tagged to this job. So 101.491.01. I could just clear it and that would take it off the job. The other thing I could do is I could go find it in the grid view, or I can click go to there. And I should just be able to scroll over here and click untag and click OK. This is, I don't know if this has been discussed, but there is this new feature too, which will allow you to go to the job, which is really helpful.
All right, got another question for you, Richard. If there are multiple areas, kitchen and bathrooms for a job, and the client decides they want to wait to do the bathrooms, how can I change the job to only do the kitchen without deleting the bathrooms in the area list?
Yeah, so probably the best way of doing this would be to phase. So I'm just going to duplicate this area. So whenever, the nice thing about ActionFlow is everything is kind of consistent. So if you ever see this button here, this is the duplicate button. You can see it up here as well. And so if I was to click this, it would be the exact same job, exact same revenue, everything. But just for the sake of time here, I'll just change that to kitchen. So let's say they're ready to do the bathroom, but they're not quite ready to do the kitchen yet. And you're working through the actions and you're clicking through everything and you're ready to install. What you would do is you'd take this kitchen, you'd click this little taskbar here, and then you'd click phase. Do you want to duplicate the actions? Yes. So now there is a new phase right here. And so there's a phase group and there's a name. You can change those names if you want. But now what I can do is I can just install this bathroom and say that that one is done, ready to go. And then when I'm ready, I can do the kitchen on a different day. Same job, same customer, different areas. Now we can do them in different ways. Cool. All right, what else? What is the advantage to phasing being a different job number? So I think the advantage there is that you can, so actions within ActionFlow are specified to jobs. We can also do it to areas, but it's almost always to jobs. And so if you want to say that this was an installed job, but you don't want the kitchen to be installed, then you would phase to just install that first part right there. I think that's the question you're asking. But if it's not, feel free to follow up there. Cool. Any more questions here? Is there a way to override job numbers? Yeah, there is. We can start job numbers like way in the back. So, a lot of accounts will start at 10,000 or 20,000 or something. And so that's kind of what we do there. You can't just go in and like double click 4171 and change that to 4175 or something like that. It is just going to pick the next job number, but the best way of doing that would be just to start it at a different number. No, so the next question says I was referring to 4171-1, then phase 2 as 4171-2. You could change the name here. So you could say 4171-1, 4171-1, and then you could do 4171-2. You could do it like that, and then you'd be able to search like that. But in terms of the actual job number there, you wouldn't be able to change that. So you can change the job name, you can change the area name, but you wouldn't be able to change the job number. But that's a great question. All right, going once.
Oh, something in the Q&A here. What is the contact information in job basic info area?
So job basic info area, is that, I'm guessing that's referring to this. So the contact information in job basic info area. So this is going to be all that information that I put in. So this is for, in this particular case, this is going to be the job site. So if that's,
And then maybe
that's
maybe explain the difference between that and then the job, like contact information.
yeah. So then there is job contact information here as well. So if, you know, if this job here was a certain address and then this job here was a certain address, then you could differentiate that by adding those address details in the actual job area down here. And you might even be working with different people in that job, so you could add them there as well. Okay, it looks like there's another one here. Oh, no, green. Okay, so Sinem looks like, or Sinem looks like they were talking about this green area. So yeah, that would be if you wanted to change that contact information by job, you'd do it down there. How do you revise a color? I don't know if I fully understand the question. You can change the color here. I'm not sure fully what that means. I don't know if Josiah knows.
Maybe talk about the revision button there, like if they go back.
Yeah, that would make sense. So if you know, you've installed, or you haven't installed this countertop, but you've given this quote and then they actually want to change, there is a revise button as well. And so if I click revise right here, then what I can do is I can now kind of edit all of this information, and I can say that this is actually Queen of Hearts, and we'll see that there you go, the revenue's changed, and maybe they actually don't want that undermount there as well. I can calc and save and show them this revision. So now this is my active drawing, but if I did want to go back and see the previous one, I could click this, and this is the old one. And then there is multiple reports that will allow you to present the revised copy to a customer as well. Oh, perfect, the revise button. Can you make a previous revision active? Yes, you can. So if I go ahead and, so this is my current revision, and so I can change things and take away areas and change things, or not take away areas, but yeah, I can change things. Whereas if I go and click this drop down and go to a previous revision, what I can do is I can click this active box, and it says if checked, this area is the active revision. And now this one is the one that I will be working with. Is there cooktop and range options that we can add? Yes. So we add all of that information kind of upfront, and we can also show you how to do that as well in the back. All right, there's some more questions here. So is there a shortcut to search an address or phone number in the job contact information? Probably the best way would be through the grid view. Would you agree, Josiah? That if you're looking for a job, and so 4171, if I go to the grid view and I click include related data, again, this is going beyond the basics, but if I go to job, and then if I search 4171, then I could see all of, I should be able to see.
Richard, can I interject here?
The phone stuff here. Yeah, go ahead.
This is Roderick. Can you go back to that job, please? Okay, on the left-hand side, very left-hand side, you'll see a magnifying icon. Yeah, and that'll let you get there real quick. So if you do that,
yep.
And then if you do that, then you'll basically get exactly where you need to be. you have an address field, a phone number field, an email field right at your fingertips there.
Yeah. So that
Ultimately,
would be how you'd search.
It gets you to grid view, but it's a much quicker way to get there than having to go to grid view and then do some drop downs.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
One more question from Jennifer in the Q&A about, can one be added for the job information like the customer? Are you talking about the magnifying glass there?
Yeah, like the magnifying glass that will take you to this grid view, like Roderick suggested, to do the customer can, like,
Yeah.
we built our builder accounts in a different way, and so a lot of our homeowner information under our builder accounts are in this green area, contact information. And so if we just had a quick, you can do it with that one.
Yeah, you can do it right here, and that'll take you to the job.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah, yeah. And then if you wanted to do account, you could just change that to account right there as well.
Another question in the Q&A. Are you seeing that?
Yeah. Yeah. Can you search in customer view for a job? What search field for? So in the so there's kind of two searches here. So there's the customer names that you could search here. So if I was to type in Richard, I could see all of the customers there. And then in the job, this is going to have both the job numbers and it's also going to have the names of the job. So this is the test account. So you're going to see a lot of primary homes that are being worked on. So if I was to type in a specific name for a job, I could find it here as well. Hopefully that was where you were going with that one.
I have a follow-up question, if I could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I think it's, yeah.
sorry, technical difficulties, guys. I apologize.
No worries.
My question is going back to the phasing. So currently we have a
Oh, you've just muted, Andrew.
sorry.
No worries.
Currently we work with a couple different builders or lumber yards that use POs that their POs are assigned to a specific job number. On occasion, those jobs need to be split up into additional phases. We've ran into issues on our end where the POs that they send, if we generate a new job number, which we've had to do in the past, we have to ask for resubmission of a new PO from them. Otherwise, they will not pay their bills. So I'm curious if there's any kind of successful workarounds that you're aware of from existing users of ActionFlow that I think this is more probably on a commercial side of things, that POs are really important part of the collection process in terms of placing an order, collecting the revenue tied to it, and then making sure everything is kosher at the end. When this prints out into, so this is kind of a multifaceted question, addressing that concern. When we're generating new phases for the same project, what does that look like on the invoicing side? Is it all different invoices tagged to different job numbers?
Yeah, so there is both. We can have the invoice, we can have commercial invoices over here. So you could have, multiple different phases be under that commercial invoice, which I think is hopefully the answer to your question. The first half of the question, I'm not entirely sure. Josiah, Roderick, a different account manager, I'm not sure if you know.
Yeah, I mean, the job numbers will be separate, but if you run that commercial invoice, it'll total it up for you. So it'll show all payments due for both of those jobs. So I think that would, yeah, if you want to run it, I think that probably will help with what he was looking for. Yep, so it'll total up both jobs and then show the payments as well.
Is that helpful, Andrew?
Okay. That is going to be helpful. So a follow-up question to this would be, specifically during our quoting phase, if we are going to be interpreting the data that we're receiving in terms of project management being in multiple phases, would you guys recommend during the initial estimation splitting these into phases, or would you suggest that that's a process that's done after the original like implementation of the order?
I don't know. I think it would probably depend on what you were looking to see. And yeah, I don't really know the pros and cons there.
Richard, I can offer some advice on that if you're okay with that.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, this is Roderick. What a lot of people do in the commercial world is they'll generate one job and then split out the areas as best as they see in their mind's eye as they're reviewing the project, how that might break out when it comes to fruition. Then when the job comes to you and you know that you're going to get parceled out, maybe units 1 through 5 or first floor versus second floor, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, then you can take that master job that you built and you can start either duplicating that and start removing the parts and pieces you don't need and retain the others, or you can start parceling out the areas and then using that to create your phase jobs for you. At the recent workshop that we had at Blasius in Michigan, and then Jen Mary's on the call here with us, or on the presentation with us, we kind of learned through the multiple companies that were attending that session is that there's so many definitions of phases and everybody has their own interpretation of how it needs to get done. So you've got considerations of deposits, you've got the considerations of the master contract, how much has been fulfilled, how much is still yet to be fulfilled. There's so many different responses to your one question that it's really difficult to just kind of come up with a golden black and white answer. I'm sure that your account rep, or if you want to reach out to myself or whatever, we could help you with your particulars of how you'd like to handle that and manage that on a commercial job basis.
Okay, yeah, thank you for that. That was great. Thank you. Follow-up question: when you do phase, if you would search from the get-go for the second phase, obviously if you go into the main job, the original job, you're able to find it and you can see everything that is a broken off piece or a phase of that project. If you were going directly into 4172, do you have the same job view that I see here on the screen? Okay.
Yeah.
So no matter where you land on any phase, could be phase 33, you're still going to have access to jump right to any of the other 32 phases. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, because they'll all of those jobs and all those phases will be nested within that same customer.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
All right, going once. All right, well, I think that will conclude today's webinar. Thank you for joining and participating. Thanks for the questions. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Roderick and Kim, for further insights. Again, that link to the event is in the chat at the beginning. If you have any questions, reach out to us. And other than that, have a great rest of your day. Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.